eyes bright, chins up, smiles on, and watch for the shoe. I knew that you try to get the drop on me. You can't do that because I'm familiar with your game. Thinking that there was something you could possibly do being just a shoe while I'm a human being. I'm so much smarter than, oh no, you brought a friend. Clever girl. The Hunger Games Catching Fire was directed by Francis Lawrence, who did Water for Elephants. Ironically, not about elephants doing deep diving. I was really disappointed with that. He also did I Am Legend. That was one of the last well-received Will Smith movies. That's really hard to say. That dog death scene will haunt me till my dying days, ironically. Also, I can't get over the fact that the creatures in that movie were basically just carbon copies of the robots from I, Robot, which was another well-received Will Smith movie, to an extent. It also had Bridget Moynahan, who's incredibly great-looking. My God, she's a fucking goddess. And Tom Brady said, "You go away. I want to go with Giselle." And then he fucked that up. Good job, Tom Brady, you fucking moron, you millionaire fucking moron. Bridget Moynahan, Tom Brady, and Giselle are nowhere near this movie. But it was written by the gentleman that brought us The Full Monty. Yes, that comedy from 1997 that certainly was very much a product of its time. 127 hours and other stuff. And written by the gentleman that brought us Little Miss Sunshine, Toy Story 3. God, that scene in the freaking incinerator. My God, how haunting. Oblivion, Inside Out. We spun around to a beautiful Oblivion, Rendezvous, and there's a sequel coming out from Disney soon. And also, then he went to Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. It brought my attention to Daisy Ridley, so that was nice. Daisy Ridley is also nowhere near this. Jennifer Lawrence is, though. She returns as Katniss Everdeen, who, along with Peter, Josh Hutcherson, they survived the 74th Annual Hunger Games, and now they're on tour, a 3-hour tour. Actually, it's a longer tour than 3 hours, and there's no weather that starts getting rough until they go to the 75th Annual Hunger Games, because President Snow, played by Donald Sutherland, is bound and determined to quell this building rebellion and get all the previous winners from districts to fight and fight and fight and fight and fight, fight, and kill each other to squash the rebellion. And from there, we have a movie. So, being that it's a sequel to Hunger Games Catching Fire, if you did not see the first Hunger Games, well, check out my review of it. But also, you're going to want to watch that because literally this is more of that, but I would argue this was the proper sequel where it jumps off and tries to do its own thing instead of being a sequel that tunnels back in on the original. Yes, it follows some of the same beats. It's based on the continuing book series by Suzanne Collins, and also the director of this particular movie did Red Sparrow, that had Jennifer Lawrence in, and also he did Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, and he's doing the upcoming Hunger Games prequel that might be out by the time you watch this. So in preparation for the Hunger Games prequel, I decided to give all of these a watch. Now, I've seen them all before, watched them all in theaters. Rewatching them, it becomes very obvious again that they peaked here. Mockingjay, and I'll get to it and I'll go into a little bit more detail, was something that was a bigger book than the previous two, but also I think they could have just made 3 hours. But then again, sweet, sweet dollars, and the fact that Twilight and Harry Potter successfully split the last book into 2 movies. And Divergent movies tried to do that. And they overestimated how many people were willing to watch Shailene Woodley. So, Lenny Kravitz is back, but after this one, we will not see him again. Donald Sutherland back as President Snow. Liam Hemsworth as Gale. Elizabeth Banks back in her clown makeup. Jeffrey Wright, who's a terrific goddamn actor. Philip Seymour Hoffman, the man that took Soundgarden Spoon Man to literally, oh, this is going well. Jack Quaid and Woody Harrelson. And basically it's picking up sometime, many months afterwards. I mean, right around the time of the 75th Annual Hunger Games. But it's taking place sometime in the immediate future. And the funniest thing about this one is, in comparison to the first movie, the first one cost, like 78, $80 million. This one cost $138 to $140 million. So they were like, hey, first one did so well, let's give you that. $158 million opening, $5.5 million higher than the previous one, which is good. It didn't lose it. It, didn't lose any, grip on its audience. Almost $425 million in the U.S. gross. $16 million higher than number one, so good. Has some staying power. And instead of, about, 600, I think it was 690 or 600 something million dollars, worldwide. This one made almost $900 million worldwide. That's a lot of goddamn money. That's a lot of fucking money. So, basically, a sequel done right. It managed to get, follow some of the same beats while also advancing the plot. Even if, again, the aforementioned Mockingjay movies get a little bit long in the tooth. So, President Snow visits Katniss early on, and basically the berries ended up giving people hope. The poison berries that they probably should have tried to quell from the whole goddamn area, but they didn't. So now the idea is hey, we could use these poison berries and make stuff, and nobody would be the wiser, and we could lead a rebellion. So Snow tries to make sure that they get they squash this rebellion, and that Katniss plays by the rules. And then she is basically going to be their pawn. Pen him today, pen him tomorrow, pen him forever. Pen him, pen him, pen him, pen him, pen him, pen him. Jennifer Lawrence was really coming into her own here, considering this was just a year after the first one came out. And Philip Seymour Hoffman was a new game master after Wes Bentley didn't do all that well, and he had to have a very difficult death. So, new game maker, there's a party. He dances with Jennifer Lawrence, and there's a bit of suspicion that maybe he is trying to get her on his side, but whose side is he on? I think it's pretty obvious. He's really tipping his hand that he's working with this, rebellion that's building, this revolution to take down the Capitol, because I don't think anybody would want to be run by something that Donald Sutherland is in charge of. That being said, hey, here's an idea. He says to Snow, let's make them think that Katniss is one of us. Google got one of us. The revolution is coming regardless. Katniss is really not handling things that well. She wants to help her mom and her sister. She wants to help Gale. And then Gale just takes a ton of whipping, just a ton of whipping straight out of, Starship Troopers. And then Katniss is torn because she loves Gale, but she respects Peeta and feels that Peeta is a key to the revolution as well and must be saved. So she says to Woody Harrelson's Haymitch, hey, please, if they volunteer, if they volunteer you, don't let Peeta take your place. If they volunteer Peeta, please take his place. And yeah, there we go. Everyone sees Hope, though. Hopefully not that picture of Hope Solo. You know which one I'm talking about. And from, it's following the same beats as the same Hunger Games, the selections, that kind of stuff, but it's from a smaller pool because you have to have the winners. And then on to the selection. Haymitch does get selected. Peeta says, no, fuck that. You're old. I'm going to go. Because he loves Katniss. He also wants to protect Katniss in his own way. Well, new games, same recruits, all-out war is basically what it is. It isn't about trust. It's about staying alive. Ha, 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 ha. Staying alive. Staying alive. And they meet various people, including Jenna Malone, who plays Joanna, who looks incredible. I love Jenna Malone. Loved her for years. She was in this Swallowed movie that was great. Very, very great. And we get a rundown of the various people. Some you don't have to fear, some you do have to fear, some substituted for others, and there you go. That's your lot right there. You have more of a reason to root for these people. It's more about the characters that we know and a couple others in the periphery, instead of having such viciousness among all these, people that were trying to win in the previous movie. And there's one point where after, this big old talk show and pomp and circumstance and everything, Jenna Malone just strips down completely naked in an elevator shaft. God, why can't I be that lucky? But anyway, it's for a movie. I know, I'm sorry. But, they get ready. Then we see all their skills. We see a archery version of Tetris where people are made of blocks. Peeta, how are we going to kill these people? Well, some we have to kill and some we can be allies with. And then we see some of the revolution, but we focus more on these particular characters. Jenna Malone yells and gets in somebody's face, I volunteer to be in their place. I have issues, a lot of issues. But Jennifer Lawrence shows up in a great white dress, spins around, turns into a black dress, because in the movies everything is possible. Lenny Kravitz's cinema creates these great things. And then PETA tries to have a last minute Hail Mary that these games can't happen because Katniss is pregnant. Actually, she's not. She's not. They got married in secret. They might have actually gotten married, in the off-screen portion. But the whole point is the baby thing doesn't work. The games are still on. The audience basically is first saying stop the games, cancel the games. Can't do that. You can't put a pregnant woman out there. Never mind the fact they're putting an older woman out there and they're putting people that are clearly off their goddamn tits and they shouldn't be running these games anyway. But oh no, an unborn child, that's too far. So, then Cinna gets killed. Oh well, I guess we will never see him again. He had to fly away. Yeah. So, they start now in the tropics, and they're starting at certain points. And there are these divides where there's the fort area that has all these supplies and everything in it. It looks like a clock. That gets brought back up a little bit later, where basically this is a different type of game where they're having certain disasters happen every hour. And there's even a poison fog at one point, which I kind of laughed at. Stupid N64. And the old lady that doesn't really talk, Mags, was one of the survivors of one of the original Hunger Games. I think she was around before the Hunger Games were around. She sacrifices herself when this poison fog is bound for them, and they're going to die and all know these horrible things, and they really want everybody to die to quell this rebellion, but she runs into the poison fog, and then you have a few people that escape, including PETA and Katniss. And then a bunch of baboons show up, because why not? Damn you all to hell, you blew it up, damn you all. And the baboons do not go in the water. Why? I don't know. Baboons must not be able to swim. There was this one lady that was known as a morphling rather. I think this movie needed some morphine at some points to slow down a little bit. Girl that played her was pretty attractive. Actually, woman. I think she was in her, at least her, I think she's like, if I saw it right, if it's the person I'm thinking of, she was born just a year before I was and looks great. So anyway, we suddenly get tsunami. Well, sort of. It kind of crashes into the forest and all this weird shit's going on. And then we see some survivors like Joanna and Jeffrey Wright's character and the woman that is delirious. He keeps saying tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Because it's a clock. Jeffrey Wright has a bunch of copper wire. And the idea is this lightning keeps striking this particular tree like it's a conductor to create all this stuff. Because a little bit earlier, Jeffrey Wright is a BT, he says, have you noticed something like we're in this demonstration room and there's flickers and everything? Well, they're powering this force field and it's affecting everything because it's sucking stuff from the energy source. More on that in a little bit. There are a few tributes left. Some that are a little bit evil. Nobody that really fucking matters. There's like one bald guy that just shows up out of nowhere. Never trust bald people. Wait a minute. And, lightning, earthquake, all this stuff. The Capitol people even adjust the clock. So Philip Seymour Hoffman is a vicious game master. Are you the vicious gatekeeper? And all this crazy stuff. And then there's these birds that cause hallucinations with voices, jabberjays, because they can mimic. And why not? Why not have birds that can mimic and do that stuff? But the plan among the survivors is to take this copper wire, wrap it around the lightning tree, or the lightning conductor tree, wait for the lightning, and burst out of there. Now, how the hell are they going to burst out of there? Well, don't worry. We find out here in a little bit. So, the thing kind of goes a bit tits up. Joanna ends up taking out Katniss's tracker because they use trackers. And she has her play dead while she runs away, leading a couple others away from, her. Too many pronouns, pal. Sorry, Vince McMahon. And then it looks like Katniss is going to shoot one of her allies. She's wondering where the hell PETA went. All this stuff's going absolutely tits up. But then she notices where the lightning has struck, and she notices a spear, and she takes this, she takes this thing and wraps it on a wire and shoots it into the sky as the lightning goes. And the lightning just runs up that thing and shocks everything and bursts the whole goddamn dome. And the Hunger Games, the arena has exploded. It's like the WWE Thunderdome, except with slightly worse production values. And that's it. She's dead. She's suddenly dead. And then suddenly a ship comes and picks up Katniss. What the hell's going on? They saw ships pick up the previous dead bodies, but Katniss isn't dead. Then here's Hamish and Phyllis Seymour Hoffman and others, but not Peeta. Why not Peeta? Because they captured Peeta and Joanna. Joanna and Peeta are in the capital. And, oh no! What's going to happen next? We got to find out when I review Mockingjay. But yeah, a better sequel, that part where, I remember the part where she shot the arrow into the sky, and now I must scream. She did that, and the entire audience cheered. It wasn't like a super full house, but it was full enough. And from there, we end with that. We run the credits, or they run the credits, and that is Hunger Games Catching Fire. And then from there, we get introduced to Julianne Moore, who I still would, and you still would too. But that's for the Mockingjay Part 1 and 2 review. Let me know your thoughts on Catching Fire in the comments, please. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.